Hey everyone. As you can see that nowadays so many things are happening in the country, and we are making a mark in different fields. And you might have also heard, and you might have also seen that you must also be aware that India is the fifth largest economy in the world, and we are making progress in all the spheres of all the spheres. But are we really progressing? Let us look at the different aspects of the things which are happening, and how we are progressing and where we are lacking. So many things are there to be taken care of, and there are so many things which we need to reveal, which people must know what's happening around the country and in the country, and what the politicians are doing, and what where they are lacking, and what else they should be doing, and where they're failing and where they have succeeded, right? So this is all about we're going to talk about. And the topic which we're going to talk about is politics as a religion for the politicians. Is it really a religion, or they are using it a tool for meeting their own ends, right? So across is sitting my friend who will be talking about the same, and then we will be going deeper into the whole conversation, right? Robin, start the conversation.
Okay, good evening, first of all, and good evening to all the audience. And this topic, I think, is going to be very crucial for many reasons because we have seen what is happening right now. And in the name of religion, I mean, politicians these days are taking too much of benefits, and I think this is the right time to make people aware of all these things. I'm not being against of any singular party. What I am telling is that there are certain things which has to be, dealt with extra care, and this is what can be done by us, not any other person, because we are all the citizens of this country, and we do have a right to ask these questions to the government, right? So for this, I think we need to look into the matter. We need to be very investigating here because we have to drill like an official, right? Or a person who can drill everything and comes to the reality, right? So we have to put it in the public by discussing a lot of events that are happening right now, and in the name of religion, how one particular politician can make the entire country fool. I'm not saying that people are becoming fool, but I still think that there has to be something which needs a proper regulation, even if it is religion, even if it is politics. So there has to be a proper channel to handle all these things. I think that is quite missing in this entire episode, whatsoever is happening, right? So we are also, watching and throwing our glimpses on what is happening, especially around the Kumbh that we are now, going through, and we can see the kind of media uh, and its coverage that is giving to the entire events that is happening. And there are several setbacks, there are several lacunas which are, I think, still not told to the public, right? So many things are there about the politicians, about their failures, but just because of some government or some strong politicians do have those manipulating powers in their hands. They could literally do anything what they want. So I think it becomes pretty hard for everyone. It's not for just the media. I think every person finds it literally like an hardship, right, to manage this, and therefore they have to be very dutiful towards this demagogue kind of leadership. So for that reason we have to come out with an explanation on few things that we will try to discuss through questions, through proper discussions on many issues that we are going to raise in the upcoming you can say time, especially in the same video, right? So that is possibly we are going to cover, and we'll try to look some other aspects of the politicians, but the main focus will be there only on one point, and this is the main theme on which the entire discussion would be centered at. This is that, are these politicians using a religion as their tool, as an instrument, or are these are this is this religion is like a political tool for all these politicians? So we are going to discuss about it in a more great depth, so that we could know much about it. Over to you.
One thing I know that if you talk about religion, so we've got the scriptures, we've got different books, and which always talk about the right path to follow.
Mm.
Right? They always
Right.
suggest that they always guide us through the path. So in the similar fashion, if we talk about politics, so politics also has got different kind of scriptures, and that is the constitution, right? We've also got certain policies which the politicians are supposed to adhere to, right? So one thing I want to ask you that how these politicians are adhering to those policies. What happens, when the election comes up, and they start, giving lip services to the innocent, citizen of the country, and because and they have got, they have laid down certain policies, and they say that they'll be following all those policies, they'll be sticking to them. But once they come to power, and then everything just, they forget each and everything. Just tell me one thing, that how these people are sticking to the policies, sticking to the constitution, and how they are doing justice to their positions and power.
Okay, I mean, for this, we need to, find few things because, sometimes a country like India um, is not very easy to be governed, right? It is not just BJP or Congress or any third party, right? So there is a reality which I think needs to be little more, cautiously dealt, right? And the reality of this country is that this country is heterogeneous completely, right? So the country is with number of, population, right? It's a very largest populous country at the same time. At the same time, we find the country is having a multilingual linguistic, culture, multi-religion. So all are under one roof. Now, when we have all these things together, however, it presents and projects the entire Indian picture as something more glamorous, impressive for the countries, for the other countries, especially at the global platform, right? But in reality, it is also equally very difficult for the government to govern the country or heterogeneous demands, expectations, of these people, right? So we have people from different segments, right? And these different segments have their different priorities undoubtedly, and they have now these priorities, and they want the government to fulfill those priorities. Sometimes government, successfully do that, sometimes government miserably fail to do that, right? So on this particular thing, I say, I mean, government and no government could be criticized, but there is one more thing which has to be, properly, understood. And that's and this is how we can understand that when we try to see and look into the picture of those minds of these politicians, many things are easily and automatically solved out. For example, when we try to find out the intention of a particular, leader, or let's say any particular, politician leader, then we understand what exactly this politician wants, or is this politician literally adhering to all those norms and all those commitments that he made to his constituencies before he became a, a leader, right? Now on this we can find out that first, every leader, it is not the leader of this country, leader across the globe, always want to anyhow preserve, conserve, or protect their positions, their chair. That is very powerful chair, right? So for them, for this, they could do all possible things. For them, there is nothing moral or immoral. There is nothing good or bad. There is nothing suffering or, pleasure. For this, they can do any possible thing, even when there is a certain thing comes by, even as a rule breaking which consistently goes irregularly, especially as what was the requirement to fulfill that policy. They can easily do that because they can do any possible thing. So this is a common trait. That's what I'm trying to say. This is a very common trait of all possible politicians. So you cannot compare, politicians on this at least ground. But when it comes to meeting their efforts with those which is essentially a required one to meet up, to bring a particular policy to a ground, then I think we have number of leaders in the list. Some leaders take it as their responsibilities, and therefore they literally do hard work and they do all possible things to materialize this on the ground according to the expectations of the people. But there are many other politicians who literally don't give much attention to this, because for them it is mere uh, a, 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 a tool which provides them or serves them as a mileage to the political ambition, right? And this is what is very common in India. It is common across the world, but it is also very common in India. So I don't find even this government, BJP government, has done much. However, the first 5 years of this government was looking like that it is going to be much sincere. I mean, comparatively more than the previous one. But as it came to the second and the third, the sincerity of the governance, I think, has somewhere been evaporated. I don't know what happened. All of this, maybe you can see as an impact of not BJP having this majority or thumping majority.
Yeah.
Right, this time we can see. I mean, this government couldn't come out with
They
thumping
cannot
majority.
take the decision, or they cannot take this decision on their own. They have to,
Actually,
yeah, they have
they
to
have to take
consult.
they
Yeah,
have to
this
take
is,
the consents of other members too, and which is also
yeah.
equally in number, just running
Hmm.
short by a few number, right? Few seats.
Even
So
though
I
the
mean,
PM is there, he's in power, but I think that he's helpless.
he's helpless because he needs consent of the other parties. But
Yeah.
his reputation right now, I think, is not being I think enjoyed by the oppositions, and it has never been ever since Modi came into power,
Hmm.
right? Most of the times, so we also have seen that the government has come out with some stringent remarks, some vilifications, stark
Yeah.
vilifications, against opposition leaders. Or maybe, I mean, this hatred against Hindu and Muslim is at peak. I think there is no doubt about it. Everywhere you can see. I mean, this is a little bit much this time. However, this has been before too, but I find this time it has reached to that point which was never before, right? So I think the entire mindsets of the public of this country, I think, has been tilted towards this particular kind of discussions, rather than to be doing discussion on other moot issues, such
Hmm.
as employment, such as you can say, there are many. I mean, I mean, I don't think. I mean, uh, people are even discussing about the inflation rate. I mean, this country, literally is doing good. There is no doubt about it. But a large segment of the people is still suffering from those, those commodities. I mean, which are easily you can available, especially to people living in other countries, right? So we have to look everything at the same time, and we have to conclude it cleverly, consciously, having a data, and not by being emotional, because the first 5 years of this government was thoroughly I think indulged in the emotions of the people, right? People had a lot of emotions towards the government. People had a lot of emotions towards the religion. But as we are, growing with this, government, I give you one example. You remember what happened last year on 22nd of January, that the Modi came out in public, and there was a day when Lord Ram, came to Ayodhya, right? So
Hmm. Yeah.
there was a festive, almost like Diwali. And what Modi did, especially on the last, uh, the same day, 22nd, that this day will be memorized as Diwali, the second Diwali, right? And people will every year come out and celebrate this return of Lord Rama to Ayodhya, because this foundation, or you can say that the inauguration of the Ayodhya temple was done on that particular day. I want to ask to each of you, whosoever watching this video, how many of you felt the same fervor, the same year? How many of you have seen the same experience, felt the same experience as what they felt last year? I really don't find any much kind of highlighting this matter anywhere in the country. I didn't find that people are even talking about it. I literally couldn't even, I mean, sense that today is 22nd of January, the same day. when we celebrated this with that kind of fervor. It was completely an obtrusive event. But this year, I mean, it was like almost a dark. People who remembered that came out and they enjoyed, they celebrated in their own way. But there was nothing as such from the BJP government. They are coming in the public and they are making people realizing the same date. Because, and that what shows one thing, that whatever it was last year was only for the political reasons, but only for the political interest. The BJP government got that interest and now it's all over. So therefore, I always say that religion is often used as a tool, an instrument for the politicians. So religion, I mean politics. Therefore, I always say politics is more like a religion to politicians, as sages and priests often considered to be sacred for their lifestyle, for their connections to those highly divinity things and activities, and they consider it highly, I mean, religious stuff. But at the same time, these politicians consider these politics much like religious people consider, divinity things as religion. So this is the reality of the politicians, and that is what I want to reveal. We want to reveal to the audience. Over to you.
One thing I would like to bring to your notice, which I have generally, observed, that if we talk about, because I'm talking about the responsibility of both, I'm talking about the responsibility of citizens as well as the government. If we talk about the facilities, if we talk about, so I'm talking about the responsibility of both citizens and the government. What I see is that we are being provided with all the facilities, right? But we citizens are not actually being conscious towards maintaining all those facilities. You might have seen, right? When the road is laid, you can see that they start digging
Right.
digging the pits and all.
Absolutely right.
But one more thing I would love to say is that why do these politicians not keep an eye on all these things?
Mm.
Because I know that the citizens should be responsible. At the same time, the authorities should also be taking care of this, because this is the same kind of things are happening in other countries as well. But you can see the kind of maintenance, the kind of
Mm.
facilities, how they are maintaining all those facilities. Because the law is strict, right? And why the law is strict? Because we can also have the same kind of law in our country, but why do we not have the kind of law which is there in other countries? So somewhere, the authorities are not at all responsible, and they
Right.
are not and discharging the responsibilities as they should be. So this is what we are going to talk about, that why we are lagging behind in terms of means why we are failing to maintain all those facilities which have been provided, or sometimes even the name of the facilities, they are just giving us, you can say, uh, they are not actually giving the kind of facilities which they promise.
Mm.
Why does this happen? Why it is not possible in India? Why it is possible in the countries?
Okay, see, for this, there are some technicalities issues. I mean, for example, I give you one short example. I think that will be answer to this question. If you go to America, United States, we call the president the most powerful person,
Yeah,
especially in America, right? I mean, we don't find our president as powerful as the president of America
we've got
because
prime minister
we,
for
we have got prime minister here.
yeah.
But one thing is also different there, and in their ways of governing, right? The country, the nation, is that it's a Congress there. Like we have a Congress. So in America, there is also a Congress, right?
Yeah,
So, for example, president has a number of executives working under his hands. But these executives are those which are appointed by the Congress. Congress is opposition. Congress is an opposition to the president in America. So, for example, let's say there is a huge or an urgent need for tackling, the growing pollution in the city. So first, for this, Congress will provide a certain executive members, and in that executive members, there'll be some. experts of the same department or the concerned department, right? And thereafter, they will be working under the president's hand. So, for example, current president of the United States is Trump. So, Trump will be managing all these executives, right? So, these all our executives would be working as per the requirements to tackle the issues of pollution. But lastly, whatsoever happens, they will be responsible to the Congress. Anything goes wrong in their ways of dealing with the issue, this pollution issue, right? They'll be responsible for the Congress.
The opposition will be held responsible.
They, executive will be responsible for the Congress, which means they will have to be answerable
Okay.
to the Congress. So the
To the
Congress
Congress.
will ask a question to them why it is on. So therefore, it is pretty much stronger, in my opinions, because even president has power and executive working under his hands. But at the same time, whatsoever president may say to this executive. So, for example, I am the leader of the country. I'm the president of the country, and I have some executive working under my hand. Okay, so I using my all power, enormous power in my hands, right? So I can use these executive like puppets for me, and I can do all possible things through their experts for different departments, right? Or in their different departments. But these executives want to, just because of they have to be answerable at the end of the day to the Congress. So Congress thereafter will come and ask, why did you do that? Why didn't you meet up with these kinds of particular requirements for which you were appointed? Therefore, how the power is balanced in USA, which is not here. So, for example,
It
our
means
Council of
it means
Ministers.
the opposition is being assistant to the someone who's in power.
Yes, obviously. I mean, to a certain extent. I don't say that it is completely, but still there is a chance. There is a proper balance of the power. But here we have a Council of Ministers. Narendra Modi, let's say, is a Council of Ministers. He's a Prime Minister. So there is a ministry working under his hands. Like, and these ministries are not responsible, that much to the opposition parties. They'll be chatting, and that what we have seen recently in the parliament,
Hmm.
pandemonium kind of situations arose sometime, right? But there is no proper way of handling these things. I think in this, or on this matter, I think America is far better than us, right? So there is a proper balance of power, which is, I think, is missing in Indian case. So I think that might be a reason. I don't say this is only a one reason. There might be some other reasons, but I find this reason is even more stronger. Over to you.
One more thing I would like to ask you, as we know that once someone comes in power and then they forget all the promises they made in the past, and they know that somehow they're going to be there for 5 years, and this is how they can make the most of these opportunities, right? They can line their pockets, they can even have they can even help the pay, their own people. I mean, there is kind of a term called nepotism. So they make the most of this as well. They help the people who are their you can say their relatives or their acquaintances, right? But one thing I would like to ask you, that what these people have in their minds, that they do such things and still expect the citizen to elect them once again. They will be coming to power. So don't you think that these people don't have any religion? I mean, they don't even think of the kind of words they used, and they don't even they're not being serious about their words. So why do you think these people, in spite of being so educated, in spite of being so qualified, and they have so many so they have got so much experience as well, why do they fail to do justice to their positions? Don't they have the sense of morality? Don't they have the sense of duty? Don't they have the sense of being sincere towards their services, towards their duties? What makes them to stoop so low?
To answer this question, we need to be a little bit operative here. So we need to operate few things. First, we need to look into the mindsets of the politicians that we will lead. or treat or understand the in the later part. And the other thing is that the responsibilities of the public, the citizens of this country, or you can say the understanding of these, of this, populations, about the politicians, about their intentions. So all these things we will try to understand, and then we will try to find out, how it could be concluded, right? Every politician in the country, I'm talking specifically about India, is very well aware of one fact, that the population of this country is divided.
Yeah.
It is not just divided on religion and caste, but it is divided on the ground of poverty, or on the ground of sentiments,
Yeah.
right? One more fact which is also prevailing and which is pretty much highlighting, often people, miss to introduce it to the, audience, and that is that when we say India is educated country, then we need to ask, is it really so, or are we really educated? And if we're really trying to insinuate that we all are educated, or India in some other ways an educated country, then I think we have not seen the reality yet. Because even if today you find the 2011 census, because the next coming census is still not produced or it's not released, right? So according to that census, more than 65% of the total population is still living in the rural area. Now, it's not about being educated, it's about being, whether they are being met with their daily needs or not. Education is far as a distance to them. First, as a need to them is to meet up with their essential or commodities, right? Such as to provide them food for 2 times, to provide them house, and many other things which are very important for survival. Education comes last. Now when and now try to understand the connection, the correlation between the politicians, the way they produce and the way they play their politics. These politicians are very smart. And how do they, practice and play their politics? Is that they first try to divide the entire population on certain grounds, and they try to target each population according to the needs. So 65% and 70% are living in rural areas. For them, education is not that much a big need or a demand. You go to any village. I have been to village. I have my village around Gwalior, the outskirts, and I never found them. They are talking about education. Many of them, most of them are still engaged in their, you know, I mean, ancestral business, that is agriculture. Obviously, they engage entire, their descendants into the same business. And if they find any opportunity to go out, they go out, and they even do something else, but not do education at all, right? So government has been pretty much confident and optimistic on that point, that these people are not going to question me on all those important events which are really crucial for the left population, that is 35% population. So for example, only 30 to 35 percent populations are talking about development, are talking about what the government has done so far in the field of education, what the government has achieved and accomplished in the research and development programs, what the government has done, especially in providing a clean water. It is only the 35% people talking about. Now, when you compare this, data, and when you understand, we understand that government, any government, can do it very easily. So for that 65% of the population, the government only provides what? 2 times food. This is also a reality. And as long as these people keep getting foods, they are satisfied. Their needs are satisfied, because they don't want to see, or they don't want to see beyond that. For them, development is just when they get 2 times of food. Moreover, the same population is also very sentimental. Since you are not attached to any high program or educations, so your understanding obviously would be limited to a certain extent. You would not be in the position or having any capacity to question the government on the ground of religion, on the ground of several things, which is often being criticized. If you go to America, the common person sitting there in having a lot of knowledge can question the government even on the ground of religion, on the ground of development, because most of them are literally educated, they can counter them, right? But here in the country, the government can play with their emotions very easily. I mean, we have seen number of occasions where the government used this very tactics, and almost made the entire one segment of population fool on that, and the all public got sentimentally attached to them, and that's how the things went in the politicians favor, right? So even when this remaining the left 25 to 30% of the population go against the government's will, or don't support the BJP for that reason, or the Congress for that matter, the government is not going to be affected at all negatively, because 65% is still in majority, right? And 30% is marginal, and even in that 30%, I think 25, I mean the 5% or the half percent of it would be even giving favor to that political party. So this is the equation that is already set up, and politicians know this pretty well. So the question you asked me, that are these politicians not having any sense of duty towards the policies, towards the commitments that they make to the entire public? They are basically in a kind of position, or in a kind of situation which is called a manipulative, highly manipulative. They can do it very easily. So even when they have committed anything to the population, right, they can manipulate with that in some or other ways. So for example, the election is around the corner, right? Delhi elections around the corner
Yeah.
in the next month, 5th of February, I guess. I don't know the exact date of. On the very same day, 5th of February, Narendra Modi is going to take a sacred plunge into Mahakumbh on the very same day. Isn't it politics? Now, but one segment of the people will consider it highly sacred. They will start marking, or you know distinguishing the leader as a very spiritual or a religious leader. But the government is doing his own job, his own profession. So it is not just this government is doing, many governments did that before. That's how they play with the emotions of the people. So for example, we are sitting here in a city, we are highly educated, so we can question the government, why the government is taking and doing such, why government can't this have the same thing on other day, or is the government using this religion as a tool for winning? But the 65% of the population won't even ask this, because it is beyond their capacity as forming a question against the government, because they don't see the politicians in that way, because they don't have proper education. Their mindsets are properly manipulated already. Agencies are working all together in a, especially in a way that I think everywhere in the nook and corners you find the government is doing in their own way this business, and making people believe that yeah, this government's for them, right? So that's how these things happen, and politicians can do it very very you can say effectively, because they are skilled and very adroit, especially at this. Over to you.
As far as I know, that this is not the story of India alone. This is the story of most of the countries and
Absolutely.
even
Right.
the superpower. And I'm talking about America. When I actually I was not very much into politics, as I already have shared this thing with you. But as I'm growing and getting to know the kind of things which are taking place in the country, I'm getting a bit, interested in politics. Earlier when the BJP came into power, I found that even in America, the politics was quite good. And now, as you talk about today, the politics in America is just like the politics in India. You might have seen the kind of mudslinging remarks they were throwing at each other when they were just fighting this election.
Right.
So this is the story of the whole world now. You can see what's happening in Russia, what's happening in other parts of the world. But actually, basically, because we are living in India, so we'll be talking about India alone, because we want this country to reach the top. We want this country to be the best country, to be the best country to live for, uh, and we want people to stay here and to grow themselves, so that the whole world can see its power, its progress,
Right.
right? The thing I want to talk about is, as you know that with the days passing, we are the bridge. Actually, the gap between the poor and the rich is growing, right? And if this is not bridged, then we'll see two different worlds. You know, the world of rich and the world of poor, right? So what I'm trying to say is, what do you think the government should be doing so that they can bridge this gap? Because it is not a good sign. If you go to the west, you'll find that the situation is completely different from India. If we talk about even a person who is a watchman there, a person who is you can say security guard, they can take the family to the restaurant once in a month. But if you talk about in India, if you talk about a person who is doing the same job in India, they cannot even dream of taking the family to the restaurants for the
Right.
dinner and all. There is so much gap between, the kind of amount they are getting paid, here,
Right.
there and right here. So we've got a different picture actually. So what I'm trying to say is, if this gap is not bridged, we will not be able to reach the top. We will not be able to
Right.
take this country, and we cannot count ourselves among those countries which are actually developed, and we are dreaming of being developed by 2030. This is, what I read about, right? So now tell me, where the government is actually failing, why they are not focusing on this particular area. Instead of talking about the real issues, we are talking about the issues which are not at all going to be very productive for the country. They are not actually going to take the country to the next level. So instead of focusing on those countries, sorry, those issues, the government should be looking at this, and these such kind of issues, like we should be talking about education. Now see, when the corona actually, I'm talking about the corona period, because the students could not go to the schools, so the syllabus was reduced. You can see that
Right.
the same reduced syllabus is there today, even though there is no corona now. They're going to school and they're being taught, but the syllabus which were reduced is still reduced. It hasn't
Right.
been added, right? So we are not actually talking about education. We are not talking about the employment. We are not talking about the facilities. Instead of, we are talking about religion. We are talking about different things and the issues which are not at all necessary. So why is this happening? What the politicians are doing actually, and what they should be doing, and how they can do it. Whether the day will ever come when we will say that yes, now we have become developed. If the same things are happening, I think the day will never come, right?
Right.
So if we really want to become if we want to be counted among all those developed countries, then I think politicians should be aware, or they are aware, but actually they are ignoring all these things, right? They know, because they just know one thing, that they should be making as much money as they can while they are in the power, right?
Right.
So what do you want to say about it?
I mean, to start this, I'll first try to present some staggering data, and that is literally extraordinary and at the same time unimpressive. Unimpressive because it doesn't provide a certain benefit to a large number of people. And this, astounding and dumbfounded, data is that 1% of the total population living in this country holds wealth of 40% of the country. Now imagine 1% of the total population. This is only 1%, but it has the capacity to hold 40% of the total wealth. And when you extend this number more, then it becomes even more bleak and grave. That 10% of the total population holds more than 70 to 80% of the country's wealth. So which means almost 80 to 85% are enjoying with the remaining 20% or 30% wealth. And therefore, the per capita income of this country is depleting with the days passing. And this is going to be a very difficult situation in the future time. And I think the government or no government could even handle that. We often talked about bourgeoisies and proletariat
Yeah.
in the French revolutions, right?
Yeah.
So on the one hand, we have an elite aristocrat section having all privileges and almost all, lifestyle, luxurious lifestyle.
The kids are
On the
going to America to study, when
everywhere.
they've got, their own property there. But look at the people who are having to live in this extreme
On
poverty.
on the other hand, right, this proletariat that you're talking about living in extreme poverty, that is what belongs to proletariat group.
Yeah.
And thereafter, the time came that was like the last straw to break, and that was that these all proletariat people came united and raised against this very, humongous or very, powerful, lobby of this bourgeoisie. And thereafter, we saw everything that happened through the French Revolution, right? So the same situation or history can be repeated in that way because we are going near to this situation, right? The crime is increasing, and the burden to handle this crime is also increasing on the judiciary system. And this is in return giving an extensive pressure on the institutions and administrative departments. So everything is so interconnected and concatenated, right? That where the one particular thing is not happening the way it should be, its impact can be seen on all different, possible, fronts, which are the governing forces. And therefore, India is moving towards a certain kind of, a, a bleak picture, I would say, which I think could be very different or very difficult for the country to manage. Now, since you asked this question, why government does that or how government could handle that? See, I don't believe that only one particular government can do that. These all ministers are handful only, and you cannot say that this handful government can do anything they
Mm.
want.
Yeah.
However, they are powerful, but still they are just the representatives of their constituencies, not more than that.
The whole chain should be strong, not
Yes,
not one or two links.
absolutely. So to understand this, we need to, be very much, you can say, critic about other possible, channels, other possible governing. I mean, media is considered to be the fourth pillars of the country.
Yeah.
I find that media has miserably failed in doing its business. We are talking so immensely, so significantly,
They are
and
just
elaborately about ethical balance to be maintained in
they're
the
just talking
professions of the
about
media.
they're just looking for the TRPs. You can see what happened in Kumbh. The that IIT Baba. IIT.
IIT
Yeah.
Baba, I even
They were just behind him. They were just after him, right?
I made this status. I mean, if you can check my today's status, I'm saying this entire media has been trapped only between this IIT Baba
Yeah.
and that blue-eyed. I don't know. Even I haven't seen that girl. I mean, that girl's becoming
Yeah.
more viral.
Yes. She was so smart.
Uh,
Yeah.
so this is the reputation of this media, that therefore the media has almost lost its reputation at the global platform. Trust me, I mean, if you see the media's reputation globally, you won't find that India's media is literally being appreciated, because the government, the media has been so much, you can say, lame, and they are not performing their actual duties in the name of ethical balance. They are almost dismantled it everything so blatantly. It's not like they're doing it, covertly, but they are doing it in an daylight. I mean, and we are not questioning it. This is really embarrassing. I mean, for a country like India, I mean, this country is also known for its, ancient, wisdom. This country is known for questioning the things, but the media is not even ready to question. I mean, it's failed to cover many incidents happening at the same time in the Mahakumbh. There'll be many sages, priests, elevated, gurus. They are not giving a coverage to these people who
Yeah.
literally deserve the coverage,
Yeah.
but they are now somewhere revolving around few. And I always find that it's not just an issue of media. I think it's an issue of the mentality of the, because media
People
serves,
want such things nowadays.
yes, media serves only that what people want to have.
They want something spicy.
Yes, they want something spicy. So, for example, we are talking like this, we are becoming more very, future concerning people authority. So, our videos won't be appreciated. But if you come out with some outlandish activities,
Hmm.
as many other, YouTubers do that. I mean, you are going on the road and start crying, or maybe lying right in the busy
Doing
road,
some doing some stunts.
doing some stunts. So, all these things you can do, and then next morning you are going to be viral.
Yeah. And
So,
one
it
more
is the
thing,
reality.
one more thing I would like to talk about is, when I think that I'm just giving my vote, my precious vote to somebody, and they're living a very debauched kind of lifestyle, right? My blood boils to say this because they are being elected, they are, going to be a representative because we want these people to take care of the interests of people like us, and they're living a very debauched kind of lifestyle, right? Somebody comes and just runs over the people and just kills them. Is, it's just like, bull, I know you can say bull at large.
Right.
And the people who are actually innocent are going to be thrown into the jail, right? Or they're
Right.
behind the bars. This is the system actually. Those who've got the power and they can buy anybody, they will be setting free, and they will be set free. And those who are not actually able to hire somebody who can help them come
Right.
out, right? Or they will not be able to, know, they will always be there and, behind the bars. So what's happening actually? Why the government fails to deliver the justice? I mean, are we just people know the reality, but still the people who have got money are not actually they are, enjoying themselves and they are doing whatever they want. And the people who are actually lacking these, the special, especially money, are having to live a kind of
Mm.
life which they don't actually deserve. They deserve something more. So
Right.
why does the government not take the right steps so that the justice can be delivered?
Uh, as I told you before, that the government is much inclined towards its own benefits. So for them, it is their benefits that comes first. And we also need to be little aware of this prevailing need, the situation that the government finds all those possibilities where they could be financed. So there are a number of people who literally hold money in great amount. And when any of the members of that family commits any sin or crime, even when certain crime is even more grave, but as long as the party or the member or the family members provide a certain wealth or a financial assistance to the government using its own power try harder to relieve them from their own accusations, as what happens very regularly everywhere you can see. So I don't say it is just India which is, I think,
This is happening
witnessing
everywhere.
this.
Yeah, I
It
know
is,
this.
it is, it is happening, but in India these days, this thing is happening at a large scale, right?
You must be knowing
Openly.
that Me Too campaign that happened, right? Many people came, they were exposed actually, but how many of them are behind the bars? How many of them? I think almost everybody is free, right? So so many things, which are not actually acceptable, which are not at all good, and and which are by no means, you can say good or for the society, are happening. So I mean, I don't know where is this country going, and the politics, which is actually which can actually play a crucial role
Mm.
But actually, this politics is also failing right over here, because they have somewhere compromised with the ethical values, with the moral values, and they have lost all those values which, if they can sustain, the country can emerge victorious, and we will be at the top, I think, because we've got we are among the youngest country. We are the youngest country, not among, we are the youngest country, and we have all that potential which can make us the superpower, I would say,
Right.
because we are not less than America, right? But this talent is failing, just because of one thing, because there is so much politics involved everywhere, whether it's sports or commerce, or public department, or whatever, public sector, whatever it is, you will find politics everywhere. Even I can see that for when I was working in a school, I found that even for few thousands, people were so much in politics. They were
Mm.
so much in politics. They were playing politics for few thousands. What to talk about lakhs, right?
Right.
So now now tell me, what should the government do, and what should be there actually? I'm not talking about only government, because we are also responsible, and if we cooperate, I think the whole country is going to be transformed. So what should the government be doing, so that we can see a different kind of country, which is developed, and which is more prosperous.
I think a government doesn't need to do anything except that it needs to be consistent, means its action needs to be consistent with the words. So, ethically, morally, government is pretty right, but only on the vocal part. So, when it comes to addressing people, when it comes to making commitments, when it comes to finalizing any legislative authority, I mean, government is doing its all best. But when it comes to making any application of all these, policies, I think government miserably fails. So government has to be consistent with its words, first of all. Second important thing, government should realize the very identity for which India is known. Government India has been known for its traditional, you know, identity, and its traditional identity is it's being more inclined towards natural, you can say, uh, identity. You can say we have been a natural protector or nature protector, right from the ancient time, right? We have never been, represented as consumers, as materialistic, right? And I think on this part we have become, almost converse to this identity, and we are coming out as a more materialistic these days. It is not just a common person, but even the politicians does this at a large level, right? I mean, you take an example of any leader who in India tries to incite or foment the innocent public in the name of religion. But at the same time, if you try to find out what their kids are doing, then you will find mostly all of them are doing their education in abroad.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And
talking about.
they are doing their education in abroad, getting degrees and diplomas. And once the tenure of these politicians over, they call their children to come and be a politicians again. I give you one example, and this was a recent example. And this lady's name is Masuri. She is a daughter of late, Mamta. So, Mamta, Swaraj. What was her name?
Sushma Swaraj.
Sushma Swaraj.
Yeah.
Banu Swaraj. So she's the daughter of late Sushma Swaraj. I found her so intriguing. Why? Because she was advocating for Indian to be doing, traditional, you know, understand to be doing a traditional education or to be getting into Indian education system, right? She was also a supporter of Hindi language. Interesting part of this is that when I tried to find out her education, she's very elite in terms of this education. She has done 2 or 3 diplomas and educations from abroad universities. So I'm wondering, you on the one hand complete your education in higher institutions, and you make people to feel to take to do dive into that particular thing which is not that much worthy for their, you can say, for the future, development, right? Understand that. So I mean, there's too much of kind of, you can say, selfishness at play by these politicians, and they know this pretty well, that the country's people can be easily inveigled into something which they literally want us to do for them. I mean, recently, Kumar Vishwas is in, doghouse,
Hmm.
and he's being criticized. And he often talks about, many things. We have to work for Indian culture. We have to promote Hindi. We have to speak this and that. But when you find his own kids, then you will find both of them doing graduation in abroad universities. So, I mean, this is a brutal reality of the society. I really don't find why youth like us, people like us, not trying to understand this very, very small thing and trying to question the government for that reason. What is important for today's condition? We have to meet with those preconditions to meet with that. Otherwise, we will be completely misled, and
One
they'll be
more
very
thing,
difficult.
one more thing I would love to say is, why do we have to go to other countries? Don't we have better education right here in India? And if we don't have, then why don't we work on it? Why don't we make, our own education system so strong and so well that we can nurture the talent right here in our country? If we
See,
don't.
I mean, no, it's not possible. I mean, it's yes. See, life is like a cycle. We also need to understand this very fact. Life is like a cycle. India was once the master, you can say, the leader of the entire world. It was the
Mhm.
time. Now, I think India is not that much stronger, is not that much kind of reputed. But India was at once. But that doesn't mean we have to, bring all these things back, following which India became the superpower at some point of time in the history. We have to realize that the conditions prevailing then were different from the conditions prevailing now. The technologies that were prevailing before are far different from the technologies that are prevailing now. To understand and expand our understanding about the cosmological system and how it functions was a different particular, scenario or a technology. I mean, for all those ancient sages to understand, and I don't know how they could understand, but they went into a greater depth about it. I mean, literally, it served almost a pretty kind of help and assistance to the modern philosophers and the modern scientists. But today we have a different technology. So earlier, the technology we had was a different technology, and at which we were very skilled at, right? No one was almost comparable or doing any match to this, especially with us on that matter. But today, America, China, Russia are far better than us in terms of technology. Even is- Israel, which is insignificant as a mark, especially on the entire map, can do 100 times, thousands times better than we can do. I mean, for example, if you compare Indian artificial intelligence, development to the Israel's artificial intelligence, then it shares only 1% to that. So, for example, whatsoever development is happening, especially regarding artificial intelligence, India's contribution to that field is mere 1 to 2%. So we don't have that education system. We literally don't have that kind of arrangement. Recently, there is also a news, it's not a rumor, that Virat Kohli has made up a plan to have a settlement in London. So he is going to be a citizen of London, right? Even the most richest person of the country, Dhirubhai Ambani's Mukesh Ambani's grandson's daughter, are also an American citizenship. So they are the Indians, American citizens. So these rich people know their future. These rich people know where they could have more possibilities of growth, and therefore they are moving, especially in those countries. So it won't be, you can say, indigestible that tomorrow if we get a news from somewhere or any media handle that the country's biggest richest person or the most richest person has became a citizen of other country. It's also a possibility. So you are becoming rich after rich, consuming the wealth of the common people in this country, and tomorrow you decide, I'm going to be the citizen of America. The entire wealth takes a quick, shift and converts into a dollar, and that will be a part of other countries too. This is also a possibility, right? Many people have almost changed their identity, changed their citizenships. Most of them are turning out, recently, just because of the business system that we are having right now. Many businesses, it's a recent record. I was reading Hindu's newspaper a few days back, and it was telling that more than 10,000 Indian origin people living in India have shifted to different nations and permanently shifted to their nations, taking their citizenship because the country doesn't provide them a scope of developments. They are rich, they want more rich, they want more wealth, but just because of the kind of corruption that is prevailing here, you know rat tapism that is almost everywhere in all departments, I think hindering their ways to achieve that target, and therefore they are gradually moving and leaving the country and getting settled in other countries. So this is just 10,000. It's no, this number sounds is not that much bigger, but if you count it annually, then it is going to be much bigger, because here in the country we don't have much billionaire. Okay, and if all of them start doing this, then in 5 or 10 years you will be seeing that they'll be only poor. So this country is now being recognized as a developing country, further will be recognized as underdeveloping country, because by the time all the rich people would have settled in some other richest countries. I mean, 2 lakh, it's a today's newspapers report, 2 lakh Indian origin people contributing almost $7 billion to American wealth. And all of them are there as a students. They are doing researches, they are doing, study, they are doing things, and they are doing only for the betterment of America. Why these people are not coming back to India? We need to ask them. And when you ask them, you will find that they are not comfortable with the kind of environment. Look at the look at the contribution of our budget to the research and development program. A very meager. So these are the factors. We cannot be blind to the reality. Gone are the days. Yes, we were the superpower, but not now. We have to accept it. But again, just because the government is pretty much hyperbolic, very much kind of expert in exaggerating figures, and for this it takes all the emotions into account, and people who are not educated understand, oh, we were the superpower. Yes, we were the superpower. That doesn't mean that we are the superpower now. We are all together living in a different scenario and a different picture. China is far, far, far ahead. America is far ahead in all terms, education system in everywhere. So we need to accept this reality, and then only we can go ahead, because we need to rectify all these things. And for this we have to be knowledgeable enough about the reality. We have to be brave enough, first of all, to accept it with you.
So one thing I would tell you that we also have the kind of responsibility towards the country as the politicians. So the politicians should be doing their own duty. The government should be doing the duty which they're responsible for. At the same time, we should also be thinking about doing our own duty so that we can be there where we are supposed to be, right? because there is a possibility that if the population increases, especially in those countries where we are thinking of moving to, right, they would also be closing the doors for us, because
Right.
why would they allow other people to be there to be in their own country, because the country will then become overpopulous, right? And they don't want this to happen to, you know, them or to their country. So we should be getting ready for that, those possibilities as well. And we should be girding up our loin, and we should be trying to be self-sufficient. And this is only possible when we all recognize our responsibilities. We all take up the charge of our life, and the life, or the fate of the country. And this is how we can come up, and we can together make a country which is not at all going to be uh, insufficient in terms of opportunities, in terms of the resources, in terms of the possibilities for growth, and the possibilities for good life. This is all possible. But for that reason, we have to think many times, right? And we have to be very, very honest, because simply just by and dreaming, the things are not going to happen. We have to be action taker, and
Right.
action should be taken very sincerely and timely, because once the time is gone, it is gone forever, and we'll
Right.
simply be, as you know, kicking back and relaxing, but the
Right.
life is going to be the way it is, or maybe even worse than it is now, right?
Right.
So with this, I would like to take a leave, and we will we'll be coming up with some interesting podcast shows in the days to come. And I think the audience will enjoy this conversation, and they'll get to know the things we have talked about may serve as eye opener to them as well, because we are not talking about just what came to our heads. We are talking about the fact, and the fact is that we are lagging behind. And if we want to be, if we think that we deserve more, then we should be proving it, because
Right.
there is a proverb in English language. um if you just be deserving if you think that you really deserve something. So first be deserve for be
And we
deserving,
deserve.
then desire. For deserve,
Yes.
then
Right.
desire, you know, this that the proverb is for deserve, then desire. And if
Right.
we have some desires, we should be deserving first, and then we
Right.
can desire for those things. And
Right.
this is going to be possible. But yes, we have to become sincere, and we have to become very honest, right?
Right.
With this, I'm taking a leave. We'll see you in the next video.
Yeah. Bye. Good night.